Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. Our guest is Cédric Schweizer, who was until very recently the head of the international community of the Red Cross in Yemen. Yemen is obviously in a very difficult situation. There is a brutal war going on between, on the one hand, a coalition led by Saudi Arabia supporting the ousted president against the so-called rebel Houthis, who are reportedly backed by Iran. The official toll is some 2,600 people killed. There's a lot of talk about a humanitarian catastrophe. Are we really on the verge of such a catastrophe?
We are, and I can confirm we are today on the verge of a humanitarian catastrophe, because this new action, this decisive storm operation, this last operation from the coalition, is just an additional layer of the conflict. And the civilian population was already in a very difficult situation, but this additional pressure put them in a very complicated situation. They are lacking of food, fuel, which means lack of proper medical treatment, access to water, real concern. And here we don't speak about hundreds of people, we speak about millions of civilian population at risk if nothing is done today or tomorrow.
When you say millions of people at risk, what exactly is this risk? Because we hear a lot of people sometimes talk of different humanitarian catastrophe, disaster, this may be overused, disaster, this is maybe overused, but very concretely, tell us why you, as an expert in the field, are ringing the alarm and say we're on the verge of this disaster.
No, I fully understand this very concretely. I'm going to speak about water. The fact that there is no fuel in Yemen today because there is a kind of unofficial blockade for the fuel to be imported, and then a lot of difficulty to distribute this fuel within the country.
The blockade being a sea blockade, essentially.
It's a sea blockade. It's not officially, but it's just the reality today that the tanker cannot arrive to the port, and part of the port has been destroyed as well. So it's very complicated for them to come. Now, for the lack of this fuel, knowing that there is no more electricity or very few hours per day, there is no anymore reserve of fuel for the hospitals, but for the pumping station to pump the water. Because in Yemen, the only possibility to have access to water are not rivers or lakes, there is no. The only way is to pump this kind of groundwater, and without fuel, without electricity for the pumping, there will be no access to water at all. And it means that we have something like 26 million of inhabitants. It will be millions of inhabitants of Yemeni that are going to be not having access to this water. And you know the catastrophe, because if in 2, 3 or 4 days, people are going to die for not having water. First the children and then all the population.
So you're saying millions of Yemenis are at risk of dying because of lack of access to water.
Exactly. And there is really a need today for political decision. It's not possible that humanitarian organization in general can address these needs. It's too big. We need that the commercial system that was functioning before is going to be back, and there will be this possibility to distribute this fuel to all the country and in priority to these most basic services.
Okay, so let's just divide this in two. First of all, the fuel has to arrive to Yemen. This is done mostly by sea, by tankers.
Yeah.
And there is an unofficial maritime blockade orchestrated by Saudi Arabia. So I imagine you're going knock on the door of Saudi Arabia and tell them, please let the tankers in. If not, people will die. What's the response?
As you say, as a CSC, MSF and humanitarian organization, we cannot have a direct impact on that. We need to mobilize the country. We need to discuss. We need to ensure that...
So what did they tell us?
They listen to us, they understand the situation, but unfortunately so far we didn't see a result, a concrete result, because still after weeks of raising this concern, we don't see concrete changes on the ground. We saw during the humanitarian pause for 5 days, we saw that some fuel started really to enter the country and started to be distributed, but it was not enough. We need a long-lasting solution, and again, we need the commercial system to function again.
So the Saudis, I'm translating, are not okay with allowing the tankers to come in.
It's not that easy in this sense, because we know that this fuel, once it's going to enter, can be used for other purpose, for military purpose, by
So they're afraid of
the
that.
group. I think so. So it's a bit complicated. But what we are trying to tell them, that you have to take into consideration that when you are at war, you have obligation to respect the civil population. And today, if nothing is done, this population are going to die.
On the other hand, I mentioned the Saudi side of the equation. There's the Houthi side of the equation. Are they allowing fuel to be distributed in the areas they control? They gained territory in recent weeks. Is this also a problem on the other side?
It is as well a problem on the other side. We discuss with them. We explain our concern. We receive some guarantee from them that they will allow this fuel to be distributed to the hospital, to this pumping station.
It's happening?
It's happening, but it could be better. So again, we need really that all the warring parties are understanding the emergency of the situation and take the adequate measure to fulfill the basic need of the population.
Right, but obviously this is not a Yemeni issue. I mentioned Saudi Arabia, there's also Iran, and they are the allies of those countries, including the Western allies. I'm imagining you're going to Washington, Paris, Tehran, Moscow, and tell them, please, there is a major catastrophe on the horizon. Help us, talk to your friends. Is this happening?
Is what we are doing, is what we could have an added value to try to explain directly from the field what we see and what we perceive as a possible catastrophe. We discuss, we share our concern. I think it's well understood, it's known. Now what we need is not only to say, yes, we will try our best to change and to ensure that the civil population will have access to these basic services. Now we need to see results. And it's why we are raising this concern for weeks now. And concretely, there is no really result on that. And we cannot wait still weeks. The catastrophe is very close, and we need decisions that are going to be taken now.
Okay. There are obviously many actors in Yemen, because this is, as you rightly pointed out, only the last conflict.
Yes.
There are also other actors, including Al-Qaeda in the Arabic Peninsula, which has a reputation for being a rather ruthless group. There's even the emergence of elements of the Organization of the Islamic State, ISIS as it's known. And you, as a humanitarian actor, you have to deal with them.
Yes.
How are they responding to the interactions? Are they allowing fuel to be distributed? I mean, are they maybe behaving better than other actors?
I don't know, and I don't want to compare, but Yemen is a multi-layered society. And if we want to be accepted, if we want to have access in all the country, we need to discuss with all the different tribes, sub-tribes, clans, sub-clans, and groups like Al-Qaeda. And this is very important for us. We are ICRC in Yemen since 1962, and these people know ICRC quite well. They understand as well that, for example, our cross on the emblem is not something for proselytism, but is something linked to our history. So yes, we have contact with them. Yes, we raised our concern about humanitarian issues. We receive security guarantee to have access to the population. And we raised this access of fuel, for example. And we receive guarantee from them that if a truck, not ICRC truck, commercial truck, coming with fuel, they will allow it to pass to be able to be distributed to hospital or pumping station.
Would you say they can be trusted on that respect, maybe more than the two main camps fighting it out today?
No, I will not say that. I will say that the contact we managed to build with Al-Qaeda is good, and we have good interaction in terms of humanitarian issues. We need to build something with the coalition to ensure that they understand the situation and they take the appropriate measure to respond to the catastrophe, which is very close to us now.
I mean, do you have some moral issues in dealing with Al-Qaeda? Because some people will be shocked to hear that the ICRC is negotiating basically with Al-Qaeda, something that's actually not being done, obviously, by other countries.
Now, our concern are the victims of the conflict, the civilian population. And in some places, the civilian population is living close to this group who are present there. So what is very important for us is to be able to have access to all the victims. And for that, we need to discuss with all the parties. So no, we don't have any problem about that. We have, and you know, the dialogue is very important. To dialogue with this group as well on international humanitarian law, to discuss about the protection of the civilian population is something very important. And we are convinced that the possibility to have a dialogue with this kind of groups can reduce the pressure on the civilian population.
Just very quickly, I mentioned the emergence of Daesh. Obviously, there have been instances of humanitarian workers being the victims of Daesh or its allies. Are you concerned by that?
We are concerned. It's a kind of new dynamic in Yemen. So we had contact, we had guarantee from Al-Qaeda. We need to know this new group appearing in Yemen to try to have contact with them, to explain who we are, to listen to them, and to try to get guarantee for an ICRC, for the humanitarian organization, to be able to continue the very important work we are doing there. And this is an obligation for us. But it's a concern because for the time being, we still don't really know this group, and we need